one of the interesting things that's happened from the D-Wave story is there's this gigantic conspiracy that's arisen on the internet that goes like this. So D-Wave builds quantum computers. The way that they work, if you know how this works, is one of the interpretations is that you tap into these parallel universes and they do computations. Sounds really weird. But what's happened is this idea has been hijacked to describe something called the Mandela effect, which is this thing where the past changes. So think about something you know to be true from the past. And then imagine you went out on the internet and you can't find it at all. It's not there. It doesn't match with your experience. So these people think that D-Wave is responsible, and CERN. And of course, the quantum key to the abyss factors into it somehow. I'm not exactly sure how.
If anybody wonders what's really going on, the basic idea is that the virtual system acts as a technological or a cyberspace gateway to hyperspace, or the space of the mind. Computer systems that interface with the consciousness of an individual, basically they act as neurons. If you hook up computer parts basically to act like neurons of a brain, and you hook up 1 billion of them, you end up with an artificial brain, and it can think and act just like a person.
It turns out that that's actually a physical possibility. First of all, the Obama administration and the European Union are pushing the BRAIN project to delineate all the pathways of the human brain. That is, every single neuron encoded on a memory disk, your personality, your memories, who you are, the essence of your soul, will be incorporated in this disk as pure information.
And so then you develop a neural interface system, a way of plugging a person in, electromagnetically sensing all the brain waves, all the changes in their neurons, and plugging them into that system. So then the brain thinks for them. The artificial brain thinks for them. The artificial brain, creates the neuronal firing of the experience. And if a person is interfaced with that, then depending on how calibrated their mind is to that artificial system, their brain will fire the same as the artificial brain. It's like a mirror. Because the brains fire the same. Our brains fire the same, they're just configured differently. But it's just electricity and chemicals bouncing around, that's all it is. It's the same thing, it's like a computer in a way. So if I was plugged into yours, I would feel what you're doing right now. But the idea is our energy system, our consciousness is plugged in to each other, is plugged into ourselves, but if you can bring that consciousness outside or introduce the simulated information, then you can have a person actually experience, and it's just a simulator. It's the same as like the Matrix or something. And so they did that with all the depravity and rituals and trauma, and so they made it so that no one can beat that system. So with that they have these systems that can basically they have all that, and that's called the hive mind, where you can go into there, and whichever way you lean, for instance, if you get like turned on because you sense something that's starting to stream in, it automatically expands that and feeds more into it. So the idea is if a person becomes that beast, they're no longer a person. Person is who they are because of their consciousness, their soul. So this energy takes the soul of a person and defiles it until it becomes some human. It's the soul stealing device. It's the whole ancient stuff, but it's all just technology.
When we first started D-Wave, there were no quantum computers like the soul. They didn't exist, but there was an understanding that was shared amongst a whole bunch of people about what the world could look like if we built this thing that we all shared. All right?
So it raises the question, are we nothing but information? Is the soul, the essence of who we are, nothing but information? Well, I'm a physicist. We don't know the answer to that. All we're saying is, it is physically possible to teleport an entire human being across the room or maybe onto Mars. It is physically possible to do that, and it raises a valid question. What happened to the soul if your original copy died and somebody out there has all your memories?
You have a soul, which is an electromagnetic signature that's unique to you and you alone in the universe. There is technology which can entrain your soul and separate your soul from your body. If your mind which is essentially your interface to your soul, which is an interface to your body, which is primarily animated through spirit, which is just pure energy unrefined. If your mind becomes entrained, tethered, vibrating at one rate, and a system that vibrates so similar to it that the rates entangle, and then that entanglement is withdrawn through powerful magnetic fields, and you're literally magnetically pulled from the body, the soul, and the body is destroyed, your soul is then under the, let's just say, guardianship of whoever owns the machinery that is used to operate that process.
If I copy you into a machine, that copy process has all of the properties we were talking about as being a soul. First of all, it's immaterial, because copying, that's not a thing, it's a process. It's immortal, it's just like you. You can put it in any environment you want, heaven, hell, make a simulation.
So the idea is then they have these supercomputers that can map out realities all the way down, because they use generators, power generators, just like this needs a powerful battery or something if it has, 5 cores to it so it can run a video game or whatever it is. Well, they have billions of cores. They don't even use cores anymore. They use atoms themselves as the processors. You feel me? So it wouldn't even compute. And then they figured out a way to pull the energy from atomic space and create electromagnetic fields from that. And then you combine that with these systems, these supercomputers that are so powerful that they can process an entire universe, and they're connected to what are called zero-point generators, which are basically free energy devices. It could power a little box could power an entire city or town. And so basically it's a computer with no limits. And these systems map out atom by atom an entire universe, and from there the DNA by DNA of an entire being. And so the point is that these are simulated realms that are so accurate that they're actually they're accessing potential possible parallel realities where these things actually occur.
There are an enormous number, mind-bogglingly large number, of parallel realities, as real as this one, that have different consistent histories. So imagine a world where all of the laws of physics as we know them are obeyed, but different decisions were made along the way. Different decisions at the level of tiny microscopic particles, different decisions all the way up to what you chose to eat for lunch, and whether you chose to come to this session or not. Quantum mechanics makes a very specific prediction that all of those are as real as the thing that you remember.
What if the universe is different, the war was ended this way, somebody else won, or if this fundamental law was different, or if this species was, basically this frequency, this variable was different, and it plays it all out from there. The idea is these were combined through those mind simulators by these alien consciousness secret society members, and the ultimate result is that they connected to instantly a universe that projected in hyperspace, holographically invented as if it already existed, and they simply tapped into that frequency of beings that merged with and identified with that type of consciousness. And these consciousness were deformed subhuman entities, which basically look like the reptiloid, the insectoid, or these other beings that are being talked about and stuff like that. They don't actually exist except for these realities.
So the way I think about it is that the shadows of these parallel worlds overlap with ours. And if we're smart enough, we can dive into them and grab their resources and pull them back into ours to make an effect in our world. And this is bizarre because we don't see those other things. But science has reached the point now where we can build machines that exploit those other worlds. And quantum computers are perhaps the most exciting of all of these.
But the idea is that these beings in this far-out reality realized what was happening in these realms that basically we can say exist, but we only have access to through these simulators, these supercomputer systems that are powerful enough to project them in a virtual reality. And they devoted all their energy to building a bridge into this reality, into this world, to making that doorway open up.
Let's say I take your, not your genome, but your connectome, put it on a laser beam. In fact, in the book, I actually calculate how big a laser beam will be required to put your consciousness as pure photons. Shine it into the heavens. You're now shooting consciousness into outer space at the speed of light. Forget booster rockets. Forget asteroid collisions. Forget radiation dangers and weightlessness and lack of oxygen. Forget all that. You are riding on a laser beam at the speed of light, and then at the end is a relay station. A relay station which takes the laser beam and then puts it into a surrogate. So in other words, it's like staying at a hotel. If you're a businessman, you go from hotel to hotel and relax. Same way, you would be on a laser beam going from relay station to relay station, and when you go to the relay station, you become Superman on the other end of the rainbow. So is this a physical possibility? Yes.
The idea is when these people came back, they went in instantly, came back in an instant. 1 second later, it was just, their eyes flashed. They were gone for 1,000,000 years their time. And they come back with the plan to develop these systems to produce, to access, basically attain and produce the DNA that exists in these far out projected possible realities and actually invite these beings into the world through cloning and basically developing them and creating them in these underground bases. And create a race of aliens to take over the world with. Which is okay because they just made it up. It's all a show. It's a scam. Meanwhile, these things took control of them. And they outsmarted them now.
This, of course, triggers a lot of alarm. One of the guys who talks about this is Elon, who says things like this. Like, when you do this, beware. Because you think, just like the guy in the stories, that when you do this, you're going to put that little guy in a pentagram, and you're going to have your holy water out, and you're going to wave it at the thing, and by God, it's going to do exactly what you say and not one thing more, but it never works out that way. So this is an attitude that some are having, this emerging alarmism about the way this is going to go. But these words, demons, doesn't capture the essence of what's happening here. I don't know if any of you are turn-of-the-century weird fiction fans, but there's this guy named H.P. Lovecraft, who's a very famous American weird fiction author. And he espoused a view which is called cosmicism. And the essence of cosmicism is cosmic indifference. So what he was saying is basically, yes, there are these massively intelligent entities out there, but they're not good, they're not evil. They just don't give a shit about you even in the slightest. The same way that you don't care about an ant is the same way they're not going to care about you. And these things that we're summoning into the world now are not demons, they're not evil, but they're more like the Lovecraftian great old ones. There are entities that are not necessarily going to be aligned with what we want. So this transition is really, really massively important for our entire species to navigate. And going back to that thing that Sam Harris was saying, nobody is paying attention. This thing is happening in the background while people bicker about politics and what's going to be in the healthcare plan in the US. And underneath it all is this rising tsunami that, if we're not careful, is going to wipe us all out.